are you actually good? And so that, I'm not even gonna lie to you, that was a little kind of frustrating because I'm someone who like, I kind of shoot it straight where if I wasn't feeling good or like I was hesitant, I think I would have said something and like been honest because I'm just.
They thought you were blowing smoke, Sophie. You said you were 100%. I believe you. They didn't. So we're gonna lowball you.
This is the point in my career where I just want to win. Like I just want to win.
Sophie Cunningham just dropped a bombshell on her podcast that the Indiana Fever front office is absolutely praying doesn't gain traction. We're talking about Caitlin Clark's enforcer, the player who grabbed J.C. Sheldon by the throat and slammed her to the floor for touching her teammate, the woman who became one of the most cherished figures on the entire Fever roster because of her grit, her devotion, and her absolute refusal to let anyone disrespect this squad. That same player just went public and confirmed that the Indiana Fever front office gave her a lowball offer in free agency, calling it, quote, a little kind of frustrating, and the raw emotion in her tone revealed everything her diplomatic phrasing tried to conceal. Welcome back to WNBA Pro, and what Sophie Cunningham just exposed behind the scenes raises deeply troubling questions about how this front office genuinely values the players who don't happen to be named Caitlin Clark, because while the fan base sees devotion and sacrifice, the front office apparently only sees a balance sheet. Let's unpack exactly what went down, because the mainstream sports media is completely burying the blatant disrespect that just unfolded. Let me lay out the financials, because the financials are precisely where this story becomes shockingly offensive. Sophie Cunningham earned $100,000 last season with the Indiana Fever, $100,000 flat for a player who put up 8.6 points per game on nearly 47% shooting efficiency, a player who drained almost 2 3-pointers every single night, a player who became the undisputed emotional anchor of a squad that made a serious playoff push, a player who literally shredded her MCL defending Caitlin Clark and was willing to get thrown out of games for the mission. But that was under the previous CBA framework. That was the old financial landscape before the monster TV contract kicked in, before the salary ceiling exploded to $7 million per team, and before the Supermax designation jumped to $1.4 million annually. So when the new collective bargaining agreement took effect, Cunningham anticipated fair compensation. She anticipated the booming economic environment to mirror her genuine value to this franchise. And what exactly did the Indiana Fever present to her? A one-year contract worth $665,000. And let me be crystal clear, so the front office apologists don't manipulate the conversation. Yes, $665,000 is a substantial raise from $100,000. It represents a 565% increase on paper, and that appears like a dramatic leap in salary. But in the actual reality of the new WNBA financial ecosystem, here's the context that makes it incredibly insulting and demoralizing for Cunningham. Kelsey Mitchell secured the Supermax at $1.4 million. That's more than double what Cunningham is pulling in. And listen, Mitchell deserves every single cent. She dropped over 20 points per game and made the All-WNBA first team. There's zero debate there. But the chasm between $1.4 million and $665,000 is absolutely staggering when you factor in what Cunningham delivers to this organization, far beyond the statistical output, the physical intensity, the lockdown perimeter defense, the floor spacing, the enforcer identity, the unmistakable chemistry with Clark and Hull, the cultural transformation, the Tres Leches brand that has evolved into one of the most commercially viable viral phenomena in the entire WNBA landscape. When Sophie discussed the negotiation dynamics on her podcast, she didn't sugarcoat the reality of how the front office handled her post-injury situation, and you need to hear her precise language.
Close.
It's close.
Can I be nosy right off the jump?
Please.
Given the changes in structure and money and all of that over the last few weeks, like, was the contract better than you thought it would?
Nope. They lowballed me. They screwed me. They underpaid me.
She described it as frustrating. She explained that she shoots straight, and if she wasn't feeling completely healthy, she would have communicated that, honestly. But the front office refused to trust her. They reviewed her medical documentation, questioned her rehabilitation progress, and weaponized her torn MCL as negotiating leverage to suppress her compensation. And here's what makes this situation even more insulting. Cunningham signed a one-year agreement, not a multi-year commitment, one single season, which means she has absolutely zero long-term financial protection. She's going to compete this entire campaign, knowing that if she suffers another injury, sacrificing her body for this organization, or if the Fever decide to pursue a different roster direction, she's right back in the open market next April, fighting for employment all over again. Lexi Hull received a multi-year commitment. Kelsey Mitchell got the Supermax package, and Sophie Cunningham the enforcer, the cultural foundation, the viral phenomenon who elevated the Fever's profile far beyond basketball performance, received a prove-it one-year deal at less than half of what her backcourt teammate is collecting. Nobody in the mainstream sports media is addressing why this decision actually occurred, so WNBA Pro is going to break it down for you. Because the explanation exposes a brutal, uncomfortable reality about how the WNBA salary cap system operates and how the Fever are forced to allocate their resources. The Fever currently have Caitlin Clark on a rookie contract right now. That contract is going to expire, and Clark is going to qualify for a massive, unprecedented extension under the new CBA's designated player provision next offseason. Aaliyah Boston just inked a 4-year, $6.3 million extension. Mitchell sits at $1.4 million, and those three players alone are going to consume a gigantic portion of the $7 million salary cap total. So when the Fever executives sat down with Cunningham's representation, the mathematics were absolutely ruthless. They essentially communicated, "We appreciate you, we want you on this roster, but we cannot offer you a multi-year contract at a premium figure because we need to stockpile our financial resources for Caitlin Clark's extension next summer. Here's a 1-year offer, take it or walk away." And Cunningham accepted it because she genuinely loves competing in Indiana. She loves the locker room environment. She loves the fan base. She loves being part of Trey Laches with Clark and Hull. She wants to capture a championship. But loving something and feeling genuinely valued by that something are two entirely separate experiences. When her podcast co-host asked her if the contract exceeded her expectations, her response was absolutely chilling.
Kind of lit. It was a little weird, but you know what? I think this is a great wake-up call to not get comfortable.
Fuck y'all.
I think it kind of lit a fire under my ass even more. At the end of the day, like I'm coming back from a major, it was MCL.
She said nope, flat out. She said they lowballed her directly. She said they completely screwed her over, and she explicitly stated they are unbelievably fortunate that Caitlin Clark is on this roster, otherwise she would not be returning to Indiana. Let that reality settle in for a moment. Sophie Cunningham is essentially subsidizing Caitlin Clark's upcoming contract extension with her own financial stability and security. She's absorbing all of the physical danger and career risk, while the front office is collecting all of the economic benefits and upside. She recognizes it fully. She's frustrated by the arrangement, and she just announced it to the entire basketball world. Don't misunderstand the situation. The Fever front office is facing an incredibly challenging predicament. Amber Cox and Kelly Krauskopf had to execute difficult choices. Preserving capital for Caitlin Clark represents a legitimate organizational strategy, and WNBA Pro is not going to pretend otherwise. But here's the catastrophic problem with this approach. When you financially undervalue a player who serves as the emotional backbone of your team culture, and then that player publicly announces on a podcast that she was mistreated, you've manufactured a locker room crisis that money alone cannot repair. Because now every rival team's general manager understands that Cunningham is unhappy and will be available as a free agent next season. Now the locker room chemistry includes a veteran who is sacrificing blood, sweat, and tears for a fraction of what she believes she's genuinely worth. Meanwhile, the Fever brought in Monique Billings on a 2-year contract. Billings receives 2 years of guaranteed security while Cunningham gets 1. A player who has literally bled for this franchise received a shorter contract than a player who just arrived through the door. That's not how you treat the individuals who constructed your culture and identity. That's how you treat disposable commodities. And Sophie Cunningham is absolutely not a disposable commodity. But the front office's strategic decision to lowball her has fundamentally transformed her psychological approach. She's no longer simply playing for a championship ring, she's playing for vindication and revenge, and you need to hear the ominous warning she just delivered to the rest of the league. She called it a wake-up call to never get comfortable in this business. She said it ignited a competitive fire inside her. She's medically cleared and feels physically strong, and she's prepared to make the executives who doubted her recovery look absolutely foolish and incompetent. The Fever better pray Cunningham stays healthy and delivers a dominant breakout season, because if she executes at that level, she's going to command a massive contract offer next offseason. And there's absolutely no guarantee the Fever will possess the salary cap flexibility to match competing offers, which means the enforcer, the culture architect, the player who Caitlin Clark herself genuinely adores, could be competing in her final season wearing Indiana uniform right now. And after being disrespected and undervalued like this, she would have every legitimate right to leave this franchise behind. This is WNBA Pro delivering the financial breakdowns and unfiltered truth nobody else provides, so smash that subscribe button right now if you want this level of analysis. Drop your honest take in the comments immediately. Did the Fever absolutely disrespect Sophie Cunningham, or is this simply the cold, calculated reality of salary cap management? I want every single perspective flooding that comment section right now. Hit that notification bell because the preseason tips off in exactly 5 days, and we're covering every single angle, every controversy, every game of this historic Fever season with complete transparency. And before we end this video, I need you to comprehend something with absolute clarity. What you just witnessed today represents only the opening chapter, because if players are willingly sacrificing their own financial futures and accepting massive pay reductions just for the privilege of playing alongside Caitlin Clark, imagine what this roster composition is going to resemble when the spotlight intensifies, when the championship pressure arrives, when the games genuinely start carrying consequences. This isn't just another ordinary season unfolding, this is a complete takeover of the league. And if you want to stay ahead of every single developing storyline, every authentic narrative, every critical detail the mainstream sports media is deliberately ignoring, then you already understand exactly what action you need to take. Don't just observe from the sidelines as a passive spectator. Become part of this movement. Hit that join button immediately and become a WNBA Pro member, because the people inside the membership get exclusive content access, more detailed analytical breakdowns, and the genuine conversations that we don't even publish on the public channel. Real quick before we close, I want to give a massive appreciation shout out to our newest members Craig Shalady, Perry Delvecchio, Peggy Brilly, Greg Friday, and Donald Jackson. Welcome to the inner circle. You're officially part of the real ones who see what others completely miss. If you're watching this video right now, the question facing you is simple. Are you just a casual viewer, or are you genuinely part of the movement? I'll see you in the next one.